Going on, guys? What's up? How y'all doing? I apologize for the delay. It was just that the chat was down and we were trying to get it enabled. So I apologize for the thing, but I guess we can see the chat in here. So George, why don't you go ahead and tell them about yourself and we will go ahead and get this thing rolling. I'm just trying to see something. But go ahead, George. Tell them about yourself, brother.
Yeah. Uh, George Bruno. I have a YouTube channel with that name, George Bruno. It's a lifestyle channel talking to people about life, a lot of good advice on everything from male female relationships to men's grooming to cooking, fitness, diet, health, family stuff. And been doing it. Had that channel for about 3 years now. I've been traveling for a long time. We got you.
All right, cool.
All right, that's T21 Surfer.
Yeah, T21 Surfer's in today. T21, tell them about yourself real quick before we start. T21, can you hear us?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Okay, why don't you tell everybody about yourself real quick before we start, sir?
I am George Bruno's brother. I am a contractor. I am 56 years old and living the life.
All right, guys, y'all have the number right there. It's 515-605-9373. That's 515-605-9373. And today we are talking about texting 101, the do's and the don'ts, and the things that you do that technically hurt you, but also we're going to give you solutions on how you can text to be a better texter when it comes to the conversations and communications when it comes to women. George, when it comes to texting, what is your take on that, sir?
Well, I'm quite aware of the fact that so much gets lost in translation. And many times what you write or many times what someone else writes, you don't pick up the full meaning unless you are an absolutely superb communicator. Texting, not unlike tweeting, omits nuances and sometimes the real meaning of things. You might be joking. You might be the kind of person that jokes, and you might say something that you think is funny, and the other person will read it and think you're very serious. So there is kind of a sixth sense that you need when texting and when receiving texts. They don't. Not everything is at face value, but when you are skilled at it, you can use texting to communicate very, very well.
Tony, what do you have on that, sir?
Well, I think the issue with texting is it doesn't show emotion. There's no emotions. It can be really bland. I think that you text somebody. I've done it. We've all done it, and you'll get. I mean, for instance, my brother texted me, GFY. We didn't talk for 6 months. What he meant was good for you. I thought he said, go fuck yourself. So, I think what happens is everything does get lost. A lot of people don't believe in, emoticons or emojis, but when you use emojis, sometimes at least it'll kind of convey what you're saying. So, that's kind of my take on texting.
All right, guys, when it comes to texting and everything, guys, what y'all have to understand is that when texting is no different than your mouthpiece. And the problem with a lot of you guys out there is that you think that the way you text is different from the way you talk. The thing is, when it comes to communication, guys, you show your hand based on everything you do, from texting to talking to being on the telephone or engaging with a woman or a friend. You show a person your hand when you are texting. Now, Tony, I'm explaining to the guys why it is there. A woman can tell what kind of emotional person you are through the things that you text. Because a lot of guys out there, they're under this impression that women cannot read between the lines, gentlemen. And it is not only the things that you type, the questions that you ask, it is also how you respond back to a woman. And what we're going to be talking about today is how to be more aggressive like a man, to go ahead and begin to let the woman know exactly what your position is without being needy and desperate. Now remember, guys, and we got questions. You got a question, go ahead and post it. If y'all want to call in, 515-605-9373 is a number. But the important thing that we're going to teach y'all today is basically, first one I think we want to start off with, George, is where do these guys go wrong as far as texting goes? And then once we get to that, once we talk about the problems, guys, we're going to hit on the solution. So, George, when it comes to texting, what would you say some of the problems are with some of these guys?
I think have a destination, have a purpose. What are you texting for? Everything needs to be texted. For instance, if it's meeting up with somebody for the first time, everything needs to point towards that first face-to-face meeting. So you might go from meeting online to personally texting on your phone or through another app. But what is the goal? Keep that in mind. And just like any good salesman, always be closing the sale. Always. Everything needs to move you towards a desired outcome. If it's just free flowing, then what's going to happen is if you are one of three guys that she is talking to, the most funny, aggressive, and clear communicating person is going to end up meeting that woman. So you can't be passive. You can't be passive.
All right, Tony, what do you have on that, sir?
Well, when it comes to women, I'm a little savage when it comes to texting. I'm sure my brother knows this. One thing I don't do is return a text immediately. I think that's key. Creating a little mystery. I mean, let's face it, she's getting texts from all different guys. I mean, we know that. So when I do a text, I'm pretty precise. I don't. Sometimes you can be an asshole, and sometimes that works. But I'm usually pretty precise in what I want because I'm just not into endless texting. And I think a lot of women nowadays, that's kind of where they're at.
All right, Tony, we're talking about the problem with texting first, Big Dog. What are the problems with texting, brother?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you, Steve.
The problems. What are the problems people have with texting, big guy?
I think that most guys immediately cave to a woman. I mean, I see it all the time with friends. I think what happens is when they finally get that text, that's pretty much the end. You know, they tend to sit around and wait for it. I see that quite a bit, and I think responses are really important. You don't see like when I respond to a woman. Again, I don't respond immediately. I think guys that respond immediately are I think you're losing right off the bat. But when I respond, I think I'm pretty concise about what I want, depending on the woman, of course.
All right, guys, y'all want to call in 515-605-9373 is the number. 515-605-9373 is the number if y'all want to call in. And if y'all have a question in the chat room, go ahead and post it and we will answer it there. Some of the biggest issues that a lot of guys have when it comes to texting goes a few things. Number one, a lot of guys don't know what they want as far as relationships or women. Now, don't get it twisted. We know you guys want to have sex with a woman. We all know that. Everybody in the room knows that. But the problem is you don't know how to go about getting the thing that you want because you have no idea how to go about and ask for it. Some of the problems that y'all guys have comes from your fears, fears of self, fear of success. It also comes from the fear of the unknown. And for a lot of guys out there, y'all, a lot of guys will simply throw a lot of stuff on the wall, shit up on the wall, hoping something sticks. They feel like if or they feel they're pressured to walk on eggshells. They're pressured to feel like they have to get the woman to like them. They feel like everything that they say has to be perfect. It has to be smooth and it has to be right for the right time and the right moment. And what's happening here, guys, when y'all are doing this, you are digging yourself a bigger hole than you can. Because the thing is, and like Tony was saying about women, is that you're not the only person that she's texting. She's texting several guys all the time. And the thing that she's going to make her decision of based on how you text and how you think of yourself. For many guys out there, y'all sit around and have meaningless conversations with women that lead you nowhere. And then all of a sudden, when she starts sending you one word text or she stops texting you at all, a lot of you guys always scratch your head trying to wonder and trying to figure out why. What's your take on that, George? What I was just talking about, brother.
Yeah, you are not the only one. One of the biggest delusions that you can live is actually think that you are the only one that she's texting, which is not true. Women spin plates as much or more than men do. And we don't serve ourselves well when we think that she is just entertaining our advances and our company. She is literally getting hit on by 3 to 5 men at any given day.
Tony, what's your take on that, sir?
Well, Steve, one thing too is that, especially, like we're talking about texting women, one thing I do is I don't ask them. Um, I won't say, hey, can you meet me here? I'll say, meet me at this place, or here's my address, come to the house. Um, I think taking control, and I think that's what women want, is somebody that's going to take control.
Yeah, well, and I'll kind of piggyback off what you're saying about control, guys, and y'all have to ask yourselves, what is the control that a woman, when it comes to a texter, what is the control that she's looking for? What are some of the things that she's trying to read between the lines, guys? And just like communicating, guys, you have to understand that there are phases and levels to this. She wants to realize that if she is going to go on a date with you and see you face to face, she wants to know just through the text messages that you know what, the conversation is enlightening, it's fun, and it doesn't seem like it's a bunch of nervous energy going on between the two of you. When you begin to text, and some things that women look for, guys, and I will only name a few of these things. She wants to see a guy and know a guy that can think on his feet. Are you witty? Are you funny? Are you interesting? Are you the kind of guy that sees the big picture? Are you the kind of man that can get things done? What is it about you that really separates you from all the other guys? Are you able to handle a question without getting nervous, without breaking down, without worrying? A lot of these things that she's looking for through the tennis match that y'all are having through text messaging. But the thing that's really important about text messaging that you guys have to understand is this is when the game begins, gentlemen. It is not when you walk up to her, approach her, and all this other stuff. It's when you begin to communicate with her one on one. This is where she's trying to figure out what type of compatibility the two of you have. Are you going to be her best friend that she hangs out with? That type of compatibility. Are you going to be the individual that is she's going to use based off of how you feel about yourself? You know, the chauffeur, the shoulder to cry on, the one that pays her rent, the one that buys her drinks and things like that. The third thing is, are you going to be someone that she's thinking about being with on more on the intimate level? Now, remember, it is not based off of necessarily her, gentlemen. is how you are coming at her. And for a lot of guys, y'all are so busy walking. George, I want to start with you. Why are these guys always seem to walk on eggshells and think that a woman doesn't notice the fear, the anxiety, and all that? Why do you think guys think they can hide behind their words and they really can't, George? What say you, sir?
I think that men, they give in to their nervousness. They give in to how they're feeling. Sometimes you just have to overcome how you feel and put on a good face. And it's not being fake, it's being competent. And I think it's necessary that you're always in closing mode, always, which means you're always leading towards something. You're not just volleying a tennis ball back and forth. It has to be what I would call like a purpose-driven conversation via text. If you're too focused on style, if you're too focused on technique and saying magic words and coming up with some dating pickup artist voodoo, you're just you're gonna frustrate yourself.
All right. Tony, what do you have on that, man?
Well, I think like right now, a lot of guys, what happens is you're on dating sites, and the first interaction with a woman is through the chat or through the texting in the dating app, whether it be Bumble or Tinder. In fact, me and my brother talked about this the other day. I had a girl. She asked me, what was the question, George? She asked me, so have you had any luck on here? And I thought that was kind of an odd question. And I thought of the ways, I'm like, how would most guys respond to this? My response was, I actually responded to her probably about 3 or 4 hours later, but was, yeah, my inbox is full all the time. Met a lot of beautiful women, and I haven't heard from her. So
Okay. Well, we have a question here, and Brian, we're gonna answer that question right here. He's asking, do most 50-year-old women spin plate? Now, again, Brian, I don't know what a spin plate is. I don't know that kind of jargon, but if you mean, do a lot of women talk to other men? The answer is absolutely. I'll throw it, and then we'll go around the round table. As far as women talking to men, I don't know what a spin plate is, but a woman talking to men, yes. The thing that y'all need to understand, and this is very important, and I'm only talking about from when she's legal, okay? I would say 18, 19, legal, okay? For us to talk and on and beyond, she has a roster of men, and every man that she is talking to has a job based on what he sees himself as. If you have no confidence, then there's nothing that you can give her sexually. But what you can give her is something more financial, like I said before, driving her around, being a shoulder to cry on, holding her purse while she goes window shopping, put up her Christmas lights, go fix things for her. Those are jobs that she has. Understand this, and I call them banks. They have several guys out there that are banks, even 50-year-old women. They all have them. Why? Because there are a lot of guys out there that are desperate, needy, insecure, and they have no sense of what it means to be a man. So when a woman begins to text you and talk to you, she automatically knows within, not even, but she knows before the texting what you're going to be to her. It's just that when you text her, it reinforces it. Now, for some of you guys, she might make a mistake as far as what you might be. And then when you text her, you give her a whole brand new world and say, oh, wow, I made a mistake about that guy. But for a lot of you guys, you have to understand this. You cannot run away from what you are. You cannot hide behind phrases and text messages. The way you think is the same way you're on the telephone, is the same way you approach, is the same way you text. You may think it's different, but these women are smart enough to know what is and what isn't. George, what say you, sir?
Yeah. When I talk to guys that are older, they seem to think that the game is different now because they're older. People ask me, what's the difference between dating as a young man and dating as an older guy? I said, my hair is gray and their hair is gray. That's it. Nothing has changed. Appealing to a 50-year-old woman is exactly like dealing with a 25-year-old woman. There is no difference. There is no difference at all. And this is what blows me away. A lot of guys will say, we broke up on Friday night, and on Saturday I saw her online on a dating site or something. She's not wasting any time. You think she's sitting home grieving and feeling bad about breaking up, and
Yes.
she is wasting no time at all. You are the one who is, and you know the difference between men and women on dating sites. A guy might get one or two people in his inbox. A woman will go on, and within 6 hours, she'll have 70 guys just absolutely telling her that she's beautiful, and and she's getting a thrill from that. So, yes, older women have always have backup plans, and they got backup plans for their backup plans.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Tony, what say you, sir, on that situation?
Well, first of all, I'm 56, and to be honest, at this point in my life, I'm not finding women my age or that attractive. That's just me. But I don't think there's a difference in the way women text as far as age goes. In fact, my opinion is that when they are younger, I believe they just tend to be a little more open and a little more free. I think some women, when they get a little older, are entitled. They feel that the world owes them something. So I don't think age really. I think it does have a difference when it comes to, when I say extremely younger, I think girls in their 20s. But I think once you start hitting that 35-year-old range, I think things change. So, but I mean, in my experience here recently, like I said, I just think the older the woman is, a lot of times they seem just more entitled, is the only word I can think of. They
All right,
think that
and before we
you owe them
continue, I do
something.
want to let everybody know that this show is being brought to you by the Fraternity of Excellence. Make sure, guys, that you do check out the Fraternity of Excellence. Also, make sure this is being brought to you by tacticalsoap.com, guys. Make sure you go to tacticalsoap.com to get your soap to help you be a better man. This is also being brought to you by Tate's War Room, guys. Make sure you go there to Tate's War Room. And last but not least, save the best for last. This is being brought to you by the 21 convention that is going to be in Orlando, Florida, October 24th through the 27th. Guys, get your tickets. And I know Anthony has a great announcement that he is going to talk about on Saturday's show in the Red Man group. So make sure y'all check that out and check out this station tomorrow at 11 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. The thing that I like to say in all of this is that what's important here, guys, is you have to realize that the thing about words, and this is something I learned when I was a gigolo about words and women. You always guys have to ask yourself, why do women read romance novels? Why do those words come off of the page and touch them in a certain way? It's because the words have depth, and they have meaning, and they move her to more sexual and fantasy type desires, wants, and thoughts. And I think the problem is for a lot of guys, they think, and I got to keep going on the eggshell because a lot of you guys out there are walking on eggshells. A lot of you guys out there want to be liked by the woman. I'm telling you right now, if you go into any of this trying to get a woman to like you, then you're going to have a problem. She likes her brother. She likes her gay best friend. She likes the guy that will let her borrow his car so she can drive around and meet a guy. She likes the guy that comes over and hangs up her Halloween lights. She likes the guy that will go and take her out to dinner. She likes the guy that will pay her bills. Now, if you want to be liked, then keep doing it. Keep walking on eggshells. But what we want y'all guys to begin to learn how to do, instead of walking on the eggshells, crush the eggshells. Do not walk on anything except your standard and what you are. George, what say you on that, sir?
Yeah, I think we try to nice guy our way to the issue. I've come right out and said things like, "What do you want?" And you get answers like, "Well, I'm looking for a gentleman, someone who I can have fun with, enjoy day trips, go to the beach, nice dinners, romantic dinners, that whole, all of those things." And then I would say, "What do you really want? What do you really want?" And you want to get them committing. Again, I come from a salesman's kind of approach where you're just always closing the sale. You don't take the long way around the issue. You're not doing a job interview. They're not doing a job interview. What do you really want? And then maybe by the third time you say that, they might get around and saying, I'd love to meet you. When can we meet? Or better yet, when texting, go to FaceTime. Do a face-to-face kind of thing. And then I have very specific rules about doing FaceTime and Skyping. Very, very specific rules that I'll share later on.
Okay, Tony, what do you have on that, sir?
Well, as I'm listening to this, I see it's kind of leaning toward dating apps. I think that's kind of what it's leaning to right now, is what from this conversation. I think there's different types. Like today in the grocery store, I had an interaction with a woman, and it's different, I think, when you go on your Bumble or your Tinder. I prefer super direct. I don't like wasting time. I can tell you, I agree with my brother. I will do a FaceTime before I meet a woman. I think that's key. I'm not an endless texter, and I think a lot of women want that. They want text buddies, but I can go cold pretty quick. But and I know that when you go cold, and I think that works well.
Okay. I posted a statement, I guess. I mean, we want to look at questions and answer statements and stuff like that. Somebody, if y'all can see this, Paul made a statement that it's predicted that most women will not marry in their mid-30s. These women will have children with a small percentage of men, and this extreme form of generic selection may will have many negative. I don't know what he means by that, but the reason I posted this, George, is because this is why Paul is never going to get a piece of ass to save his life. Because Paul chooses not to listen to the class. Paul chooses to think what Paul needs to think and still make a bunch of Paul excuses to why Paul doesn't know how to talk to a woman. Who cares what most women do? What are you doing, Paul? George, this is what I'm talking about. It's stuff like this that show you guys why you lose. Nobody's even talking about this. George is not talking about this. Tony's not talking about this. But yet you want to go off on a sidetrack, and then you wonder why women use you, throw you away like yesterday's trash, and don't give you a sniff or a whiff of anything, because guys like you, this is why y'all lose. Y'all need to start paying attention and stop going off on your wild mental goose chases of excuses. Start paying attention. There is good information being here, but saying this kind of stuff is detrimental to you who's saying it, Paul. But that's why I just wanted to post that real quick, because that's ridiculous, man. Anyway, I'm sorry, but I wanted to say that, George. But getting back to the meat and the potatoes at hand of everything, is that I want to use that as the biggest reason. See, the thing about women that I always say, George and Tony, is that women are never accountable. Women never take responsibility for their actions. And one thing you notice about a woman, she's always pointing a finger at everybody else but the person in the mirror. And one thing that I've noticed about a lot of these grass eating lions out here, pretending to be red pill, pretending to want to be a lion, is all they are is full of excuses, George, and not taking full responsibility in the fact that you don't have what is called a mouthpiece. You don't have yak. And for y'all to understand, the reason I'm talking to George right now, because George, to me, is one of the masters of yak. You have to be able to have a mouthpiece to be on the radio station talking to millions and millions of viewers. And the thing about being on radio is that there is no such thing as radio silence. That's death. So if you are smooth enough, you can get on a microphone and you can talk the whole way through, even if you stumble or not. And George, that's why I'm kind of giving you an alley-oop, because I think for a lot of these guys out here, they don't want to take accountability or responsibility in the fact that, George, like you have a mouthpiece. You know how to talk yak, and you again because and I want to ask you about that, George, because you have radio experience and you have been on the mic. What was it that you learned or was you taught? How did you get where you were able to get on the mic, flip that switch, go live on the air, and talk to people, George?
One of the things that I teach when I teach media is as soon as the on-air light goes on, I like to think that I'm speaking to one person. There have been times where I just cut a picture of a person out of a magazine and tape it on the wall where I can see it, and I act as if I'm speaking to one person. And when you do that, you make it very, very personal. And when it comes to speaking with women, it's got to be very personal. You can't have generalizations. Can't give the same lines that she'll recognize that every other guy gives her. She wants to feel special. You respond to that. Whether it's genuine or not, that's up to you. But always speak personally to people.
All right. Tony, what say you, sir? Where did you learn how to talk to women at, sir?
Well, you know what? Me and my brother have had this conversation quite a few times. Dad was a player. Grandpa was a player. I've had a hard time wrapping my head around that men have a hard time meeting women. I don't want to sound cocky or anything like that, but it took me a while to realize that, yeah, guys are having issues meeting women, talking to women. I've never had that problem. I just, right now I'm just trying to think of how I text a woman or how I talk to them, try to convey how it works for me, because it works well. I don't want to put anybody down, but I think just most guys are afraid to say. And I think a lot of guys give ultimatums, which I think is the absolute worst thing you can do. Give a girl an ultimatum, and it just doesn't work.
Well, Tony, I see what you're saying about putting it. And this is not a show to put guys down. This is just a real man show where we're gonna punch you in the chest. I'm gonna give you example. Tim, I got some. Okay, give you example. Paul says I'm married. Okay, I guess you know me. Paul, let me tell you how I know you, sir. I'm gonna tell you exactly how. Through that message you wrote. Now, understand this, Paul. If I pick up on what I'm about to tell you, Paul, every woman that you have talked to knows you as well, Paul. Paul, you don't know how to be romantic, seductive, smooth, or sexual. You probably don't even name your wife's pussy. Paul, you think you smooth? You ain't smooth, Paul. Paul, you better hope that your wife stays at home, because if she runs into a guy like me, it's over, Paul. You want to know why? Because guys like you think just because you're married, and you guys think just because you're in a relationship, and just because you're living with her, and just because you're dating her, she is satisfied mentally and sexually. Paul, you're on this show for a reason. So what you need to do is humble yourself, sir, because I'm telling you right now, I can read you without even knowing you, big dog. And if I can do it, every woman out there can do it, sir. Now, getting to Tim, and I want to get your opinion on this, George, as well, and Tony. He says, call them on the phone, problem solved. George, this statement is part of the problem. A man doesn't run from texting. And what you guys don't understand is it doesn't matter if you're texting her, you're talking on the phone, or you put a note on a dove and you send it out the window. Everything you do tells her a story of how experienced you are and what kind of man you are. Just being on the phone will not solve the problem. Sometimes, George, it'll make it worse, because a lot of you guys have silence. That's death. Asking boring questions on the phone, death. Not knowing how to move from transition from a regular conversation to being more flirty. That's another problem. George, I want to throw it to you and then get Tony's thoughts on that. But what say you on somebody that says, you know what? Forget about texting. I got the solution. Let's run away from the issue of texting. George, what say you, sir?
I think it's a whole different skill set. Texting has a set of skills. Speaking on the phone has a set of skills. Doing FaceTime or Skyping is a whole different set of skills. Texting, there can be some silence. But when you're talking on the phone, I will tell you right now, silence while you're talking on the phone is the kiss of death. Silence is translated as nervousness and
Yes.
not knowing what to do. Same thing with Skyping. If you are Skyping somebody or FaceTiming somebody and there's silence, it's uncomfortable. It's not like you're sitting there admiring them. You don't know what to say. You don't know what to do. And they are perceiving that as total incompetence. So realize you can't seamlessly go from texting to phone to FaceTime unless you have the skill set for all three of those things. If there is silence with texting a little bit of time, it's easier to take, isn't it? You know, someone might have come to the front door. They might have gotten a phone call. They might have, you know, uh, the pot was boiling on the stove. So I think that we kind of generally understand the rules of texting, that it doesn't have to be the same kind of back and forth stuff as talking on the phone does. Texting has its own peculiar, very unique rules.
Tony, what say you, sir?
Yeah, I'll agree with that. I mean, we just had a hurricane here in Florida, just off the coast, and I had all sorts of texts from women from Miami to Melbourne Beach, and how are you? You going to be okay? Do you need anything? And I thought that was kind of cool. Um, they reached out to me, which I think was nice. These are women. Another thing, real quick, Steve. This is my opinion on friends with women. I just wanted to throw this out there. I don't have women friends. I just don't.
Right.
Now, the women friends I do have, I think you can be friends with a woman after you slept with her. I mean, that's my opinion. And when I say friends, I mean, you know, you've already been there. So I think it takes any tension out. I don't really have the tension, but I think after you've had sex with her, I think you can be friends with a woman. That being said, like I said, getting these texts over the past week or so from these different women, a few I did respond to, a few I didn't. But when I meet a woman, when it comes to texting, I go from text to FaceTime immediately, as quick as possible. And for me, that works well. I wouldn't go from, for me, I wouldn't go from text to talking on the phone. I think going from text to an actual video chat is probably the best way to go. Works for me.
Yeah, Tony, I'm kind of like, yeah, I feel you on the friends after sex thing. Absolutely. And guys, if y'all want to call in, 515-605-9373 is a number. Yeah, Tony, I believe that, see, most guys don't understand women love stimulation. They love excitement. They don't want somebody that they can read, because if she can read you, then she can control you. And the problem is, for a lot of guys out there, is that you said something very, very big right there as far as going from text to video. And a lot of guys don't realize that. Now, one thing I do, and before I throw it to George, one thing I love to do is I like to mix it up. I love texting. I love going to voicemail. I mean, not voicemail, but voice messages, because I wanted to hear the tones of my voice and things. Then sometimes I like to mix it up and sending video messages so she can see the honesty and sincerity in the things that I'm saying, and I'm not just writing things to write them. Then from that point, what I like to do is move to live video. Even though I don't see, the thing is, guys, I believe that I don't need to touch her physically. I can do it on a mental level through those things. So I understand exactly what you're saying, Tony. Going from texting, like you say, you go from texting to video. But I do is I do a pinch of texting, some voicemail, some video, and then I go live. And I do all of this, Tony and George. I do this before the date is set up. Why? Because I want my date to be more about hugs and kisses. I want my date to be more about exciting, where she has butterflies and she can't wait to see me, hug me, hold me, and tell me how cute I look and all that other cakes, what the women do. But what I'm saying is, most guys, they try to play it safe. Some guys, and I'm gonna throw it to you too, some guys won't even text. They'll get a text from a woman, and then they won't even reply back to it, because they are under this impression, George, that communicating with a woman is thirsty. George, what say you, sir?
Yeah, thirsty. Honestly, I think do what you want to do. I mean, if something works for you, then do it. If it doesn't, then stop it. Don't continue with something just because you heard someone on a video say it. Do what works for you. If you are a face-to-face kind of person and that's your strength, go with it. If you want to meet them face-to-face quickly, do it. It's up to you. I always like to say that most people who are out there dating right now, they're not dating exclusively one person. They're open to meeting many people, and they're entertaining, and they're texting many people at the same time. And you really want to appeal to that. So there is a kind of a sense of urgency. If you're acting too distant, then you've lost them. If you crowd them, then you can be perceived as a creeper. I say establish the personal relationship early on, and get commitments early on.
All right. Tony, what do you have on that, sir?
Well, I know we've all heard all women are like that. I think each woman has a different nuance that you have to kind of appeal to. And if you don't pick up on that immediately, I think that's where you lose. I've had a woman say, what did she say to me here recently? Something, oh, I'm not that kind of woman. And I'm like, well, it's called flirting. Obviously, you don't know how to flirt. She said, oh, okay. So whatever. But I think each woman has a has something specific that's different. I don't want to say different about them, but I think that if you can pick up on what gives them the tingles, that works for you.
Okay, guys, we have 40 minutes left in the show. If y'all want to call in, y'all can call in at 515-605-9373. That is 515-605-9373. And Tony, I'm going to go with what you're saying as far as flirting, because that right there is another big problem that a lot of guys have. What do you do when a woman asks you, guys, what are your intentions? Now, guys, like I've said earlier before, and George and Tony have said in their own way, you have to understand something. As soon as you approach a woman, she knows you want to have sex with her. That is out of the way. But what you do when you are texting her is going to reinforce something to her, that you are either somebody that she is going to hunt and use, or someone that she might be attracted to, and someone that she can't wait to talk to, and someone who she thinks about and things like that. Now, I want to tell you about a flirt, and I'll throw it to you guys after this, and let's go around with this. But one thing that I love to do, and I always tell my clients, is always ask for a picture. Always ask for a picture. Why? Because what I love the most, George and Tony, is when a woman tells me that, you know what, I don't look good right now. I'm not at my best right now. And what I love to do, and this is part of the flirt that where Tony's at talking about, my whole thing is this. And again, it's all about wordplay here, chess moves. Listen, the reason I approached you was because you were attractive to me. Now that we're talking, I'm learning about your personality to see if we're even compatible. But even with that being said, I want to be able to see, and I want to be able to see you not only on your good days, but also your regular days. I don't want you to feel like you have to make yourself up every time for me, because I want to see you. Because if I'm spending the night at your place, I don't expect you to wear makeup all night long as if, but when it comes to the flirting, a lot of women are insecure. They will take the photo, but then those are the moments where I always tell them about my 5 points: making her smile, laugh, blush, think, or react. Well, I'm going to notice her without the makeup, and I'm going to tell her she's still cute, if she is cute, but more likely she is. But I'm going to tell her about herself, because women like that kind of stuff, especially from a man that they know has options. George, what say you on that, sir?
Yeah, I think establishing ownership happens right away, so to speak. Ownership. I don't mean that in a domineering, overbearing kind of way. When you get people committing, literally get them to say things. You're moving people towards the close of the sale. That's what you're doing. You're getting closer to the commitment of the sale. A salesman will say, so how serious are you about buying a car today? Are you serious about buying, or are you just looking right now? And a good salesperson assesses every potential prospect, how serious they are. If someone's serious, if someone's just playing with you, they're going to be different than if they're serious with you. And never take the long way around. I say go for the close right away. And I mean closing the sale, not the clothing. Close the sale as soon as you can, and you get that by getting people to commit right away. Sending a picture, like you said, oh yeah, but I don't have any makeup on. It doesn't matter. That's okay. I just want to see a picture. And that establishes a more personal bond right from the get.
Oh, Tony, what do you have on that, sir?
Well, he's talking about buying temperature is what it is. I mean, buying temperature is important. Again, this is where I think we, again, being a little older, maybe, growing up when times were different, texting for me, we didn't text when we grew up. We had to go knock on, Mr. Johnson's door and say, is Sally home? You had to meet the dad. So, I just think that when you use when you use your text game, to me, the buying temperature has to be right. And I mean, most guys can tell if they're getting a positive response.
Okay, well, y'all see the question on the thing. We'll read it, but I want to get y'all's opinion. I'll give mine last. But this young man is asking, but without a woman who gets open from your game through words, but when it comes down to her exposing herself to much of your game to a point that she exposes her true nature, I George, I'll let you go first. And Tony, do you have a response to this, sir?
I can't see the question, Steve. Hang on here.
George?
Yeah, it says, but what about a woman who gets open from your game through words, but when it comes down to her exposing herself too much to your game, the point that she exposes her true nature? I think what the Mr. Nasir is saying that he thinks that a man is trying to manipulate a woman to open up to her true nature. That's what it sounds like. And to me, it sounds like there's a lot of game talk there. And I think if you remove yourself from the techniques world of establishing, like, for instance, Mr. Nasir, how would you establish a friendship with a man, with a guy? You talk about things that you might have in common, attitudes and opinions about current events and so forth. I've always said if you're good with men, you'll be good with women. If you're good with people, you'll be good with men and women. So I think what's happening is you're focusing too much on the concept of a woman's true nature. I would say steer away from that. Steer away from that.
Okay, Tony, what do you have on that, sir?
I'm not even sure if I understand the question.
I think I could just sum it up because we have another question in here. George hit it on the head. The problem is this guy is under the impression that he's using game or so. I don't even know. This must be some PUA pickup artist stuff. I just want to say sometimes the answer is in the question that you ask. And right here, if a woman exposes her true nature to you, then she shouldn't be your woman at all. The answer sometimes in the question, guys, that you ask. Because if she, quote unquote, exposes herself, then why are you still with her? So let's continue to the next one that has more promise to us right here. And we'll start around. Sometimes when you ask for a picture, they will tell you to look at their social media. George, what say you? And then Tony, what say you on that? Hey, that's a bad thing. But George, I want you first. And then Tony, what do you have? But George, go ahead, sir.
Yeah. There's nothing personal about that. I want the picture. I have said things like, point your phone out in front of you, point it at your face, take the picture, text it to me now. Just do it. You're not being bossy. You're being assertive. You're being fun. The whole concept of go look at my social media, I don't want to do that because that's playing your game. And I'm not going to allow you to put me into a trance. This is communication. This is not something where I have to go and do my research with your carefully crafted Instagram photos and duck lips. I'm not interested in that. If a woman said that to me, what this person just wrote, I would consider it done. It's over.
Tony, what say you, Tony? What say you?
Yeah, I have to agree with that. I mean, if somebody told me to go look at their social media, it wouldn't even happen. Wouldn't even happen.
Yeah, what I want to say, notice, here's the thing that a lot of you guys don't understand. Y'all have to learn how to read between the lines. This right here is someone who is not sexually interested in you at all. This is someone that thinks of you as her big brother or her shoulder to cry on. When a woman tells you to look at her social media, that's trying to tell you, please leave me alone. You're either creeping me out, weirding me out, or you can't understand the message that I'm not interested in you. Because the thing about a woman when she is really interested in you, not only will she send you a photo when you ask her, she will send you one when you don't ask her just to show you what she's doing. Several times, women will send photos of what they're doing when they go, George and Tony, when they go shopping for clothes, they will model clothes and say, what do you think? How do I look in this? Does this make my butt too big? Is this make my breast too big? What are your thoughts? How do you feel about what I'm wearing? Or, you know what? I'm going to the store, and she'll take a selfie that she's at the store just to show you where she's at. Even listen, and this is something that I don't ask, or George, I'm sure George got a little smirk on his face. I know George is feeling me. But what I'm saying is that when you have to ask and they tell you to go to social media, you need to charge that to the game. Now, before I throw it to George, guys, don't forget, call in at 515-605-9373 if you have a question. We only have 29 minutes left in the show, so let's get it on in, and we'll still answer any of the YouTube. But George, what say you on what I just said, sir?
Yeah. There was a song many years ago by Kenny Rogers called The Gambler. And there's a line in there that says, you got to know when to hold them, know when to fold them, know when to walk away, and know when to run. And many guys don't learn that until they're much older. You got to know when to fold that hand of cards. You got to know when to walk. And I think that'll save guys a lot of trouble.
Absolutely. Tony, what say you? What say you, sir?
Well, I think, like you say, know when to hold them, know when to fold them. But I think what the issue is, a lot of guys don't have options. If you don't have abundance, maybe they don't want to fold them. And I think that's probably one of the issues.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. Yeah, you're right about that. I mean, I learned that Kenny Rogers one on the Muppets when I was small. They had Kenny Rogers on. He kept singing that song, and I remember that. But absolutely, you see the thing. Just like you were saying with the song "The Gambler" from Kenny Rogers is really in the texting. You've got to be. Texting is something that you just can't look at face value, number one, but sometimes you got to be careful of the words you say and how they are perceived, because just because you may be thinking one thing, she might think of something else. So those are things you got to be careful about when you're saying it. And George and Tony, I want to get y'all's opinion. To me, it is a great chess match, man. It is nothing like when you meet a woman, you know nothing about her, but by the time you get done texting her, she is going to be so wild and so amazed by you that she's going to want to know more about you, want to know more behind the mirror, where she starts to give you information, tell you about her life. I mean, without me even having to ask about relationships, she'll tell you what's going on in her life. She'll let you know everything without you having to say anything. How does that feel when it's like when like for me, I know as soon as I talk to her, George and Tony, it's already over. It's already a done data. But what's your take on that, guys?
Go ahead, Tony.
Go ahead, George. Go ahead.
You be in the place of power. You are the one that determines if it's on or if it's off. You don't wait for someone to give you the green light. That's why you accelerate the issue. And if you're not getting a proper response, you have to walk, period. You got to walk. Just be unemotional and walk. And you can do that if you have higher self-esteem and you're not needy. And you got to check your own neediness. If you are intimidated or bummed out because of what a stranger said, then you got to really work on your self-esteem issues. That's going to be key. A lot of, when you're doing a texting game, it's very impersonal at that point. Very, very impersonal. And there's nothing coming from the heart at that point, obviously. And it's just, texting is a means to an end. It's getting you to the next level, whatever that level is for you.
Tony, what say you, Tony?
Yeah, it is. It is a means to an end. I think. I mean, my thing is I have fun with it. But I am pretty forward, and I think that's. I like to say what's on my mind without any hesitation. But I think the main thing, it has to be fun. I mean, I enjoy it. And then when I don't enjoy it, I'm done with it. So, I don't. I'm not good at teaching, but I'm doing my best right here. So I'm just trying to recall how I work my game, or whatever you want to call it. I never really had to structure it before. So if I'm having a hard time with it, just kind of bear with me.
Yeah. Well, guys, hold on. There's another one, a comment we have right here. What is your talk? You can train her to only text you for a hookup. Just come off assuming that she wants to come over when she contacts you. No. Oh, man. Who teaches you guys this stuff, man? Why do y'all think that life is porn? You cannot train her to text you for a hookup when you have no idea how to even have a hookup yourself, guys. What do you mean just come off assuming she wants to come over? Why would you assume that? Don't you understand that if you assume something that's not true, that's called a fantasy or a dream? And I think that's some of the problems here, George. Why would you assume something that's not based in concrete? Why would you assume something that you're not even asking for? The problem is, George, and I think I'm going to throw it to you and then Tony, is a lot of these guys assume things, and then when she doesn't want to come over and she's not attracted and she tells you to look at her photos on Facebook, then all of a sudden these guys are mad, upset, and they want to cuss the woman out because they want to quote unquote assume. What man or lion do you know, George and Tony, that sits around and assumes that she wants to come over just because they're talking? George, what say you then, Tony?
Many years ago, there was a saying that said, whenever you assume, and you look at the word assume, ASSUME, whenever you assume, you make an ass out of you and me. I never assume anything anymore. If it's not perfectly clear, I make no assumptions.
Tony, what say you, sir?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, a woman's going to, the way she responds to you is key. I mean, you can tell. I mean, most guys, you should be able to tell by her response what to do. I think if you have a regular, that texts you, if I get a text tonight at, midnight, I know what it's all about. But I think as a lot of times on the first go round, it doesn't always go like that.
No, it doesn't go like that, and that's why we have shows like this to educate a lot of y'all guys so y'all don't get false information. This show is not here for you guys to pretend like you don't care, to pretend that you are a man, pretend that you're tough, pretend that you're a ladies' man, pretend that you're good with words. This is not the show for you. This is not a pretend type show. As a man, what you are is something that you stand on. And as a man, I'm telling you guys, never, ever assume anything. If there's something you want to know, then as a man, you ask for it. Don't ever assume that just because she's smiling at you, just because she hugs you and just because she smiles at you a lot means that she likes you and wants to sleep with you. That is not how it works in the real world. Now, for a lot of you guys that watch porn, maybe that's how it works. But in what we call the real world, that doesn't work. So, guys, please make sure this is one of the things that we always talk about, George. Y'all guys have to be careful of the information that some of these guys out here try to tell you. Game does not do that kind of stuff. A man does not assume, nor does he try to figure out what a woman's thinking. If either he knows what she's thinking, and if he doesn't know, George, he is going to ask. What say you, sir?
I think every man needs to understand the concept of situational awareness and be flexible in any situation. Doesn't matter what it is. I think if you think, first of all, if you think, quote unquote, all women are like that, you're wrong. If you think all situations are like that, you're wrong. Realize that there's different skill sets needed for different scenarios. All right, Mr. says assumptions are the mother of all failures. That very well could be true. Absolutely. I don't like making assumptions. I don't want assumptions being made about me. And I just think you need to be situationally aware and adapt to what's happening. There might be someone who, how like some women will say something like, well, I'm shy. Well, half of the women that say they're shy are not shy. They're going to be swinging from the ceiling fan in about 90 minutes. The other half really are shy, and they might not have those skills. They might not have the social skills. They might not know how to react to someone who has confidence. Maybe they dealt with dorks their entire life, and you're the first smoother person that they've ever met, first competent person. And you have a beautiful opportunity to maybe teach them the way. That's how I look at it. Be situationally aware and be able to adapt and improvise at any given moment.
Tony, what say you?
Well, I like what he says about being able to adapt. I think changing your game. When I say changing your game, again, I think that women are a little bit different. All women have different personalities. I know they're all kind of the same. I mean, we know that. But as far as their personalities go, like I said earlier, being able to adapt to their personality, I think, is real important. And not to, I don't want to say this the wrong way either, not to bow down to them or kowtow to them, but to understand where they're coming from.
Yeah, I want to. Hold on, me turn it down. Okay, yeah, I love the the bald bastard said, "Focus on yourself, adapt to the situation with your experience and knowledge." And I want to kind of piggyback on that because that's a very great thing that you said right there. A lot of you guys, I think one of the biggest problem is the fact that for a lot of you, y'all think, and Tony, you hit it as well. All women are not the same, guys. And that's why you got it. See, having experience with different women are going to help you out more because you'll be able to adjust easier to the woman once you realize her personality and her character and things like that. But if you're staying at home and all you're doing is reading a book or watching a YouTube and you meet a woman, you're going to be under the assumption that every woman is the same. And that's not true. Because with y'all guys, they always say, even with Eddie Murphy on Raw, what you meet is a representative. You don't really meet the real woman when you walk up and approach her. If you think that she's real, the real thing when you meet her, no, absolutely not. It's what you see behind closed doors going to give you more of an idea of what she is. And the bald bastard, I really like what you said on that. George, what's your take on that? Then Tony, what's your take, George?
Yeah, adapting to the situation is so important. It shows flexibility on your part. If you can't, you're going to lose every time. Not every person who walks into a car dealership is ready to purchase the car. It takes a little bit of skill sometimes to sell the car. And a great salesman, and I keep using the sales analogy, a great salesman will scope out a person and see how serious they are. And the best salesman will get people plunking down the money and signing on the dotted line, and the person will walk out with the keys in their hands saying, I had no intention of buying a car today, but he made it impossible for me to refuse it. I couldn't walk away. He gave me such a great deal, and he made it easy for me to purchase this car. And they gave me so much for my trade-in, and they feel happy about it. I think what happens is, ideally, if you're dealing with a woman and you are trying to possibly meet someone, have a relationship, or meet for a drink or a cup of coffee, you want to give them an offer they can't refuse somehow, some way. You can't. Everyone else, every other guy that she's dealing with, and she is dealing with other guys, do not fall under the delusion that you are the only one she's dealing with. The other guys are not going to close the sale as quickly, and she doesn't want to play around. You'll notice in the online dating world, many women will say things like, I don't want to text forever. I'm not looking for a text buddy. They want an action buddy, not a text buddy. So load everything up into that pipeline, into the funnel, and make something happen. Materialize your words.
Tony, what say you?
Yeah, I agree. Materialize your words is a good thing to say. I don't know. I think that when you're texting a woman, for me, it's being a little bit forward, but also being flirty. I think that works well. Now, what I was saying before about personality, I'm not saying, all women have the same tendencies, but again, their personalities can differ. And if you can pick up on the difference in their personalities, what gives them the tingles, what makes them laugh, what you get a quick response with on a text. Again, that's why I use emojis. I'm 56 years old. Yeah, I use them. They work well. It just shows what I'm thinking. So, but yeah.
Another good thing by George O that says experience is only good as how well you apply it. And I think that is something that's really huge. Guys, we got about 13 minutes into the show. So if y'all want to call in, you can, or just keep your messages coming in. We will answer those that are good questions or statements. But applying is really good. But the thing is, for a lot of you guys, you apply it, and sometimes it doesn't turn out right for you, and you're scratching your head trying to figure out why it's not why it's not working out right for you, because a lot of you guys don't know how to do what I call transitioning. When I'm talking or texting or whatever I'm doing with a woman, I don't want to stay in that one place. I don't want to stay in us just playing a tennis match going back and forth. I'm ready to move her where I want her to go. I'm ready for her to bite on the words, the phrases, the sayings, everything I'm throwing at her to bite and follow me, because I come at her assertive. I text assertive. Everything I do is assertive. But the thing that is important, and I want to throw it to y'all guys, is the application, applying all this. The thing is, for a lot of you guys, you can't watch a YouTube video and think you can apply, or read a book and think you can apply. The best application, and I want to get y'all's take, is being out in the middle of the game, being in the Serengeti, talking to the woman. What is your take on that, George? And then Tony, what's your take on that, George?
Give me the exact question.
Oh, it's a statement. Experience is only as good as how well you apply it.
Yeah, it's the difference between wisdom and knowledge is this. Knowledge is the accumulation of data, facts. Wisdom is the application of that data. So you can find people that are just book smart, academically smart. They seem competent, but when it comes to the application of it, they get lost in the shuffle. You get people that, write books and do courses on these kinds of things. And in reality, when it comes time to flesh it out and make it happen, to materialize it, it falls flat on its face.
Tony, what say you, sir?
Yeah, I mean, realistically, it's a numbers game. I mean, if you don't go out and apply it, if you don't, I mean, what's an average guy's closing rate? I mean, realistically, are they at 50%? Probably if you're 50%, you're doing well. So, I mean, if you don't practice and if you're not practicing texting, if you don't have 3 or 4 women you're texting at once, I think the practice is most important.
Yeah, I really think that for a lot of guys that I don't want them to feel like uh you've got to make, I don't know, I guess when they're thinking about like applying and it's something, okay, like Whiskey the Dawn just said, it's like reading books on how to play baseball, you know what I mean? I think when it comes to applying, you've got to realize that you're not going to win every time. And it's not about, to me, it's not about the losses. It's not even about the wins. It's about getting my point across and seeing if this woman is worth my time. And I didn't say anything about sex, guys. I said, is she worth my time? Because when you have options, you really got to, I mean, it's another job with women. So is she worth my time? That's what I'm going in at. And that's what I want to know. And that's why I'm going to talk to her. And that's why I'm going to ask certain things. And that's why we are going to have certain types of conversations, because she's got to prove herself to me. I got to see that is she worth me taking the time to grab a telephone and hit the button and type her. Is she worth that? Her looks and her body doesn't say that, but is she? But George, what say you on that? We have 8 minutes to go on the show, but what say you, sir?
Yeah, it's theory and practice. Taking it from the blackboard out into real life is two different things. There's people that are technically good and what they say seems to make sense, but when it gets when you're out there at a party, at a bar, at an outdoor event somewhere, putting it to practice is so much harder. And the more you do it, the better you get. I know there's people who take themselves out of the game and they get a little bit rusty. And, they got to prime the pump a little bit and kind of get their skills back. I know I'm in a relationship, and I really, when I go out now, I'm not looking, I'm not even open to meeting anyone else. I personally love being monogamous. And if I ever was put into a situation where I had to click it back into gear again, I don't think I'd be 100% right away. I don't think anyone is. It's like lifting weights. If you're bench pressing 250 pounds and you take 6 months off from the gym, after 6 months, you're not going to go back in the gym and bench press 250 pounds. You're lucky if you're going to bench press 150 pounds or 100 pounds. You got to build back up to that. And I think when it comes to the world of dating, relationships, and so forth, you have to build up to it. You have to build your confidence up, because a guy can get shot down pretty easily if he doesn't build up. I don't want to say if he becomes calloused, because I don't want people to become calloused. But I think you don't jump from the bottom rung of the ladder to the top rung. You got to climb. And it takes time, and you got to pay your dues, and you got to put the time in. You got to do the work. That's where it's at.
All right, Tony. Then we have one more statement. But what do you have on that, Tony?
I'm good on that, Steve. You covered it.
All right. Well, let me get to the last thing before we wrap this up. And I just, again, I wanted to get y'all's, I want to read this to you guys. Men can pull their version of 6 is pretty easy. As soon as he steps into a 7, his options drop off. His options drop off 80%. George, George, you know, in the last few weeks or last few months, Burger King has been putting out this burger that's made out of grass and telling people that it tastes like real meat. And this right here is the antithesis of that. The problem is you made a mistake in your statement, sir. You used the word men, and that's not a man right there. That's a grass-eating lion. See, this is what I'm saying, man. The thing about a man is that it doesn't matter if there's a 6, a 7, a 10, a 20, or 100 in his face, 1,000 or 1,000,000 in his face. A man never breaks himself. He is always going to be a man. And when you Impossible Burger grass-eating lions who are walking around telling all the lions to eat this Impossible Burger because it tastes like a zebra, but it's made out of grass, this shows how your mindset and your thinking is. A man never changes who he is based on what is in front of him. And when you are thinking the way that you were thinking in the statement that you're making, this is why you guys lose. Because y'all separate church from state. As soon, I could talk to a 4 or 5, George and Tony, but put a 10 in front of my face and I'm mush. No, you've always been mush. You're just not man enough to accept the fact that you have no game. And you would rather scrape the bottom of the barrel thinking that you're doing something instead of really getting into the actual game. George, what say you on that, man? What say you on somebody that changes who he is based on the beauty of a woman, sir?
That's a really good topic. I think if you're sure of yourself, beauty does not intimidate you. And there's a lot of people who are intimidated by people who have a higher sexual market value, if you want to use a term like that. Right. But the reality is people are people, whether they are a 3 or a 10, it just doesn't matter. That doesn't change you. I've met people who don't rank high. I've met women who don't, quote unquote, rank high. They're not like 8s, 9s, and 10s, as like a lot of guys like to say. And I've had just great conversations and a nice time and a good social time with them, and I like that. And then I've met some, quote unquote, 8s, 9s, and 10s and had to pull conversation out of them like I was pulling their teeth or something. So I look for congeniality right from the get. It matters not what they look like. We all know that looks are not a good indicator of what's on the inside.
Absolutely. Okay. Tony, your statement before we wrap it up, sir.
I say, guys, just text it up and use your brains, man. Just when you're texting a woman, just, I guess I don't want to say think of what you would want to hear, but I'm not a big fan of roughing a girl's. I don't want to say roughing her feathers, but not a big fan of getting them upset real quick. If that happens, they usually next them pretty quick. But I think just go for it. Just go for it.
Okay. George, one last time, why don't you tell them how they can get in touch with you, sir?
My YouTube channel is George Bruno. It's a lifestyle channel. There's something there for everybody. That's it.
Okay, Tony.
Instagram and Twitter.
All right, guys. And if y'all want to check out the man mindset.com. Also, guys, do not forget there is a special Red Man special show tomorrow, the Red Man group at 11 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. Make sure y'all check that out. Also on Monday night, we'll have the Red Pill Mindset. And I think we're going to talk about the impossible hamburger type guy. Because a lot of y'all guys, y'all just a lot of grass eating guys, and you don't even realize it. But anyway, George and Tony, I want to say thank you for coming on. And guys out there, thank you for listening. If y'all have any questions, y'all know where to get at all of us. And we thank you for your time. And yo guys have a very good night. We'll see y'all guys later. Peace.